Hey up! Right, we're back on the Classic 350 REborn. Finally got it back. It's taken 2.5 months to get that clock sorted out. So I'm turning my attention again back to luggage. I suppose at the end of the day it varies from rider to rider what your luggage requirements are. Personally, I don't carry a pillion very often, if at all, so the classic configuration of the 350 Classic REborn means that you can turn this bike into a sort of a two-wheeled pickup truck. Well, that is, you could if Royal Enfield had brought out a similar luggage system to the one that they had for the old Classic 500 and 350, but they haven't, and I've got absolutely no idea why. Now, you might think that I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. The luggage system that Royal Enfield supplied for those two older models were quite literally class leading. They were high quality, they were reasonably priced, and to my mind they're the most practical, usable luggage rack system I've ever come across, especially at this price point. Compared to other luggage rack systems that I've come across, you know, they just work, they're strong. It doesn't matter if you have the original Royal Enfield bags or whether you're trying to fit some other type of bag, everything works with them. But then with the new Classic REborn model, it would seem that Royal Enfield have just thrown it out of the window and come up with other options which to my mind are nowhere near as good. Enter Hitchcocks Motorcycles. Now, they've been supplying genuine parts and non-genuine parts and accessories for Royal Enfield motorcycles since the early 1980s. And although I've not actually had that conversation with them, clearly when Royal Enfield released their accessory options for this motorcycle, they realised there was a big void that needed to be filled. To get the luggage carrying capacity of the Classic 350 REborn back to where it should have been. This started off with the original Royal Enfield pannier rails for the Classic 500 and the old 350. And a few weeks ago I published a video showing you how Hitchcocks have now created a fitting kit to allow the old pannier frames to be used on the new Classic 350 REborn. And they also had the foresight to buy in a huge stock of these pannier frames to make sure that they could supply the new 350 owners with that luggage option. Now, so far so good, but the original Royal Enfield configuration also had a rack that replaced the pillion pad, using the pillion pad support points, taking the luggage carrying capacity of the bike up to another level. And I don't know whether the original one doesn't fit the new Classic 350 REborn, you know, they can't create a fitting kit for it, or whether stock was low. But Hitchcock's response to this is to create their own. Now, it looks very similar to the original, although there are quite a few differences. I would say it's certainly of a higher quality than the original. It's made in England, and it's been black powder coated to a finish that matches the frame of the motorcycle. Now, as I say, there are some slight differences to the original that are fitted to the Classic 500, but looking at it, to me, insofar as you can tell just by looking at something, it looks just as strong as the original. And unlike a lot of rear racks for motorcycles, because this uses the actual pillion pad mounting positions, it can also take a lot more weight than your average rear rack. Now, the original Royal Enfield rack on the Classic 500 is only rated for 5 kilograms, but I've routinely carried 20 plus kilograms on that rack, not just on the road but also off-road without any issues. Now, verbally, Hitchcocks have recommended to me that it will carry up to 10 kilos. This is just my opinion. I feel that they're erring on the side of caution, and that's a conservative estimate. Now, Hitchcock submitted this rack to me for review, I think about a month ago, and I should point out that this is actually a pre-production one, because that's all they had available for me at the time, but they do have a full stock of them in now. So I'll leave a link to this rack in the video description down below, and I'll also, if you like, leave a link to the pannier rails for those that are interested. And I suppose I better show you how it fits. Obviously, the first thing you're going to have to do is remove the pillion seat, because this replaces the pillion seat. This is attached to the bike in just 3 places or 4 places, depending on how you look at it. The upper mounting bolts for the rear shocks, and then a specific bracket which is actually situated slightly underneath the rider's seat. Royal Enfield haven't used any sort of captive nut system on the back of this fastener, so you do actually need to get a spanner, as you saw me doing a moment ago, on the back nut of this actual fixing, so that you can turn the mounting nut without it just spinning. And I'm going to be honest, it's a bit awkward. This is the hardest part of the whole job, because when it actually comes to putting the rack on, everything's open and you can get to it easily. You need to remove the nut off the back of these fasteners on both sides, but leave the supporting pin or bolt in place for now, don't remove it yet. The clearance behind this bracket isn't great, so you may sort of temporarily lose the nut once you've unfastened it. Retrieve it if you can, but don't panic, because once you get the seat off you'll be able to get access to it. But you will be reusing that nut, so make sure that you do retrieve it. At the front of the pillion pad assembly, there is a sort of a long tube with a long bolt that goes through it. On the other end of the bolt, that's on the right hand side of the bike, it's held in place with a nut, and you need to get, again, an open-ended or ring spanner on that to hold it in place while you unfasten it from the other side. Unfasten it all the way and then withdraw the long thin bolt that goes through it. You will be reusing both of these fasteners, and just a tip here, you might need a rubber mallet or something similar just to persuade that long bolt out. Once you've got it far enough out that you can actually get a firm grasp of it, it should just pull out with relative ease. And you're now ready to remove the pillion pad. Now, it's entirely up to you, but I always think it's a good idea just to do any housekeeping and cleaning when I've got parts off before replacing them with something else, because it's so much easier to get at it while it's like this than it is once you've fitted the rack. Now, before you can fit the rack, you need to change the 2 top shock mounting bolts, or mounting pins, whatever you want to call them, for the 2 that come with the kit. Now, mine was all a little bit jumbled up, because this rack had previously been fitted to another bike for photographic purposes at Hitchcocks. As I've already said, you will be reusing the nuts that are on the bike, so hopefully you'll put those somewhere safe. But also in your kit you'll find 2 wide stainless steel spacers and a total of 4 stainless steel washers. Now, I didn't get any instructions with this kit because it was sort of pre-production, as I've already said, so I think I got the configuration right. Hitchcocks are usually really good with their instruction leaflets, so, you know, study that and just make sure you know what you're doing before you try fitting this yourself. Because there is a possibility that I put the washers in an untended sort of configuration. Now, obviously the whole weight of the bike is sort of resting on these top shock mount bolts, so they can be a little bit awkward to get out. I usually find you have to sort of unscrew them all the way out. Just do one side at a time, don't sort of take both out and then try to refit them. It's a lot easier if you take one side out and refit it and then do the other side. Now, if you don't have the pannier rails fitted, I'm not entirely sure whether you need these stainless steel spacers or not. Again, refer to the instruction leaflet that comes with your Hitchcock's kit. Now, I fitted spacers when I fitted the pannier rails themselves, but these spacers aren't wide enough. If you leave these spacers in, there isn't enough room or clearance between the rack and the pannier mount to actually get the rack in place. So you have to fit this wider spacer in order to achieve the correct clearance. You can then go ahead and insert the longer top shock mount bolt that comes with the kit. Again, you know, there's quite a lot of sort of weight on this bolt as you're putting it in, so you may find that you have to almost sort of screw it in, even though it's not a threaded aperture that you're inserting it into. That just persuades everything to line up so you can actually get it in place. And then once you've got it inserted all the way through, it's time to put your nut and your two washers on. I'll show you how I did it, but as I say, refer to Hitchcock's instruction leaflet before going ahead. Now, my reason for doing it this way is Royal Enfield don't use any washers on the outside. As you see here, they use a flanged bolt, which is very similar to the replacement one that you put in. So the decision that I took here was to put both of the washers on the threaded side of the bolt, in between the nut and the actual mounting for the rear shock, and then insert the rack bracket between those two washers, because it is a forked bracket, so it's relatively easy to do. I didn't come across any snags doing it this way. I think it's the best way, but as I say, check your instruction leaflet before going ahead with this bit. Once you've done that, obviously repeat exactly the same operation on the other side with your wider spacer and your longer top shock mount bolt. And once you've done that, you're ready to go ahead and trial fit your rear rack. First of all, ensure that your two rear forked brackets engage properly between those two washers on your rear mounting point, and then line up the front mounting point with that tube and replace that long bolt to hold it all in place. Once you've got the front mounting bolt in place, check to make sure that nothing's changed with the other two mounting brackets and that everything's positioned correctly, and then you can just go around and tighten all your fasteners up and the job's done. Hitchcocks have clearly taken a lot of inspiration from the original Royal Enfield rack here. You don't fix what ain't broke. It does sit lower and slightly closer to the rear mudguard than the original item does, but there's still plenty of room to get straps through without them rubbing on the mudguard. If anything, I would say this is likely to lower the centre of gravity of your luggage, which will preserve the handling of the bike, which is a good thing. In all other respects, they've retained the qualities that made this rack so good in the first place. It's wide and it's long and provides a really stable platform for the secure and stable mounting of heavy luggage. Something that a lot of rear rack producers get so very wrong. As the Bishop said to the actress, "This is a very nice rack. Right, I'll get my coat. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. You can support the channel in other ways, via my Patreon page or via the super thanks button down below. Either way, it's much appreciated. I am of course going to be back next week, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.